Hello world, it is Tuesday, September 22nd, and another beautiful morning in Defiance. Clear skies. It was dark this morning and a bit chilly, so I decided, today's my biking day, so I decided to stay inside and rode on my 40-year-old Puch, which is mounted on a track stand on the rollers in the basement, just to be a little safer and a little warmer. But it's going to be a gorgeous day, mid-70s. Hope you get a chance to get out and enjoy it. Enjoy some nice weather. You can get outside, move around a little bit. The daily devotional for today is entitled That Sinking Feeling, written by Matthew Laney. And Matthew bases the devotion upon Matthew chapter 14, verses 28 through 30, and he uses the New Revised Standard Version. Peter answered him, "Lord, if it is you, command me to come to you on the water." He said, "Come." So Peter got out of the boat, started walking on the water, and came toward Jesus. But when Peter noticed the strong wind, he became frightened and beginning to sink, he cried out, "Lord, save me." Excuse me. And Matthew writes, suppose Peter was not called out of the boat only to walk on water. Suppose he was called out on the boat to sink, to know his vulnerability and remember the kingdom is not a solo effort. Barbara Brown Taylor writes of this moment, what if Peter had not sunk? What if he had jumped out of the boat with perfect confidence, landed with both feet flat on the ground, and smiled across the waves at Jesus? What if the other disciples had followed suit, piling out of the boat after him? It would be a different story. It might even be a better story. But it would not be a story about us. Matthew goes on. We could call Peter's walk a failure. Or we could call it a spectacular success in acknowledging he is sinking and remembering he's not alone. Too often we get that sinking feeling, scramble back into the boat and give up. That's common in the journey toward anti-racism, being LGBTQIA advocates and allies, ending voter suppression, and other justice work. When we recognize how complex and intersectional and overwhelming it all is, how many things we have to untangle in ourselves and in the world, we might find ourselves backing off. Getting out of our safe spaces demands sinking into our vulnerability, our limitations, our ignorance. It's hard and it's also a blessing. We can't know what it means to be lifted up until we know what it means to sink. The good news is Jesus has overcome the intersectional high seas and hurricanes of this world, walks all over them, and did not allow Peter to drown. Matthew's prayer. Holy One, I know you want more for me than safety and stability. When I sink, help me to give thanks and remember I'm not alone. Amen. I think Matthew gets at some good points here that doing social justice work, doing the work of following Christ is difficult sometimes. And he talks about intersectionality, and that's related to how many different things are interwoven into a situation and an act. And sometimes when we think about all that, it can be overwhelming to us and make us afraid to act. As an example, I have a younger brother who is a retired police officer, and he kind of bristles at the Black Lives Matter movement because he feels like it has painted a reverse target on police officers. And there's a lot of hate for police officers because of what's happened between police officers and their interactions with unarmed young black men. But it's complicated because it's not an issue of the Black Lives Matter movement. It's an issue of actions being exposed that wouldn't have been exposed 20, 30 years ago before there were all kinds of cameras recording things and showing things. It's also complicated in that not all police officers are that way or behave that way towards people. Majority of them actually don't. It's a minority. It's also complicated because many times police officers have a very strong sense of fellowship with one another and protect one another, even when perhaps sometimes they should be standing up to some of their fellow police officers. And it's complicated because the same is true even in our society, that we should be standing up to those who are truly dangerous and putting other people's lives at risk. But it's complicated because what could be a simple situation can quickly become an out-of-control situation. And when that happens, people's emotions take over. When they start to feel like they're sinking, they panic. And they may do things that they wouldn't normally do. That's humanity. But I think the important thing here to remember out of this devotional is that we are never alone. And we shouldn't think we have to do it all by ourselves, or it's all falling upon our shoulders. But we also shouldn't give up, because sometimes we are going to be sinking, and it's going to be difficult. And that's when we remember that we're not alone, or reach out for help. So keep doing what you can with what you have, where you are. Keep working to help build heaven on earth. That's what Christ tried to help us do. That's what he's still trying to help us do. Talk to you again tomorrow. Have a wonderful day.